Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Ukrainian strikes on the Russian-occupied part of Donetsk region kill at least 3 and injure 6 others. Russian investigators say as the US-supplied missile appears to have been used in the attack. The death toll in California wildfires rises to 10 as officials warn more high winds could further fan the flames. At least 5 fires continue to burn around Los Angeles, destroying over 100,000 structures. A hammer attack at a university campus injures 8 people in Japan's capital, Tokyo. The woman suspect, believed to be a student, has been apprehended by the authorities. Niger's military junta reshuffles the government. The changes in the Council of Governors comes amid rising security concerns and increased attacks by rebels and Islamist groups in the West African country. And the Democratic Republic of Congo bans the Al Jazeera news network over its interview with the leader from the M23 rebel group that has waged insurgency in the country's east for years. Hello and welcome. Our top focus is on Mozambique. Opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has returned from months of self-imposed exile, and violence has erupted again in the southern African nation. At least 3 people were shot dead by police in the capital of Maputo on Thursday, as thousands gathered to welcome Mondlane. Local media say the police used live ammunition to disperse Mondlane's supporters. Tear gas was also fired in certain areas. Several people were wounded as police barred them from going to the airport to where Mondlane landed. As he exited the terminal, Mondlane knelt on the ground holding a Bible. He later stood on the top of a car and addressed the supporters while being surrounded by security guards. Mondlane had been away from Mozambique for more than 2 months. He had fled after 2 of his associates were shot dead in the capital Maputo ahead of the election results. He returns to the nation from an unknown location, just days ahead of the inauguration of the president-elect Daniel Chapo on the 15th of January. Frelimo Party's Chapo has been declared the winner of the disputed October polls. This extends Frelimo's almost 50 years in power, but Mondlane says that the mandate has been stolen from him. He has called himself the true winner and has pledged to install himself as the new president. Upon his arrival, he addressed supporters as their elected president.
I, Venancio Mondlane, president elected by the Mozambican people, not by the Constitutional Council, not by the CNS, but elected by the genuine will of the people, I swear on my honor that I have served the Mozambican homeland and the Mozambicans. Number one, I am not willing to accept the election results if they are the same as those announced so far. Number two, the only role I am willing to take on is the role I have always been willing to take on, which is to defend these people, to fight for these people, for truth, for justice, for values.
Mondlane, who is a popular figure among the Mozambican youth, has mobilized months of protests against the election results. Around 300 people have died since the unrest was triggered in the country, with most deaths caused by gunfire from security personnel. Mondlane says his return is a pivotal moment for Mozambique's democracy. He also said he is ready to negotiate with the government over the election dispute. But the government is yet to comment on Mondlane's statements. Meanwhile, analysts caution that his return could exacerbate the political divide, and the situation could become worse with the inauguration ceremony approaching. The weeks of unrest in Mozambique have crippled the nation. It has caused major losses to the economy, with around 12,000 job losses. Businesses have been looted and vandalized, and foreign firms have ceased operations. The violence has affected cross-border trade and the mining industries, while thousands have fled to neighboring nations who are facing the brunt of the Mozambican crisis. The worst is felt by Malawi. More than 2,000 Mozambican families have sought refuge in Malawi, but the country is also facing drought, food and fuel shortages. The president has declared a state of disaster and called for international support amid the humanitarian crisis. The regional bloc, called the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, says it is ready to end the turmoil in Mozambique, but so far it has not helped and the situation is getting worse with each passing day. Can the Southern African nation make sure the Mozambican unrest doesn't become a wider crisis? Now, for more on this, we have with us Professor Adriano Nuvunga, who is director at the Center for Democracy and Human Rights. He is joining us live from Maputo. Thank you for being with us, Professor. Now, Professor, what does Venancio Mondlane's return from self-imposed exile signify for Mozambique's political landscape, and why has it sparked such a significant response from his supporters?
Mondlane's return is politically significant. He has been mobilizing his supporters from overseas, from where he was in exile following the attempts to his life. Now he returned to engage in politics from within the country, and his leadership in the ground has been missing in terms of directing his supporters and what to do. We have seen instances where some of his supporters were looting, and that was attributed to the fact that he was not in the country to direct his supporters on what to do. And the fact that despite the intimidation by the police, the attack that we saw on his support, and they turning in big numbers to welcome him, it's a further evidence of how politically significant this moment is for the country, for his supporter, and for the future of democracy in Mozambique.
Right. And Professor, given the use of live ammunition by the police and the deaths of 3 individuals in Maputo, what does this incident reveal about the government's approach to the handling of opposition and public demonstrations?
Now we have counted about 500 people that have been killed. The 3 people that were killed yesterday, it is compared to the bigger number, it is a small evidence of how repressive the establishment is towards free and peaceful demonstrations and towards the exercise of the right for a free and peaceful assembly. What we saw yesterday, and this it tells also how difficult it is for the opposition parties, opposition candidates to be loyal. You need a loyal opposition for a country to move forward. But you have only a loyal opposition when the government it's engaging in a peaceful, it's engaging not in a repressive, the way that we have seen with the opposition, but it is the government that is instigating the violence that we see. They are the government police and the government forces that are attacking protesters that were assembling yesterday to welcome their leader. So these risks jeopardizing the governance in the months to come, because we see more militarization, weapons being imported, aimed at targeting those who are assembling peacefully to protest for.
Right. And Professor, how might these clashes and Mondlane's return impact the already tense post-election environment in the country? And what could this mean for the stability of the region moving forward?
As I said, 500 people have been killed. Yesterday, 3 were killed. The day before yesterday, 2 were targeted. So we see a wave of targeting dissent, of targeting young people throughout the country. And the argument is that those people were participating in protests. In Mozambique, free and peaceful protests, it is granted in the constitution and ordinary laws, but people are being targeted. With this happening, we risk to see further clashes. We risk to see more violent protests to take place, as people are grieved by the way that their community members are being targeted. And with this happening, we see, just like in the past, we risk to see waves and waves of violence at the community level, which will, of course, impact the stability of the country as we move ahead. President Chapo will be inaugurated next week. But, you know, being inaugurated in such a context might not be enough to contain the tension, might not be enough to bring the country to stability, because the police, the armed forces, they are attacking civilians, they are targeting civilians, they are killing people, they are committing abuse and violations of human rights. So it will take the government to have a restrained attitude to engage in a dialogue if the country is to be stabilized and looking for the overall stabilization of the region.
Right. Professor, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights and analysis there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
From the growing clashes in Mozambique in the east, let us now shift our focus to West Africa, where insurgent and terrorist activities are on the rise and creating havoc for governments. In the West African country of Benin, which is sandwiched between Nigeria, Togo, Niger and Burkina Faso, at least 28 soldiers have been allegedly killed in an attack in the northern part of the country. Authorities said that the attack took place near the border with the insurgency hit Burkina Faso and Niger, known as Point Triple. In a statement, the country's National Guard chief said that the attack was a hard blow to the security forces and added that the position attacked was one of Benin's strongest and most militarized in the region. Authorities in Benin have further said that about 40 assailants had been reportedly neutralized in the ensuing attack. Now, attacks in northern Benin have been increasing in recent years, with authorities blaming the members of the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda groups based in neighboring countries of fueling violence in the West African country. Benin's coastal neighbor, Togo, has also suffered similar attacks as these terrorist groups increase their presence beyond West Africa's central Sahel region. Moreover, Burkina Faso and Niger, along with Mali, have also for years endured insurgency driven by groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State Sahel province. However, this is not the first time Benin has seen such an attack in its northern region. In addition to the most recent assault on its troops earlier this week, in December of 2024, gunmen killed 3 soldiers who were guarding an oil pipeline in the northeastern city of Malanville. In another attack in June last year, 7 Beninese troops were killed at the Penjari National Park on the border with Burkina Faso. Reports suggest that between 2021 and December of 2024, over 120 soldiers have been killed in various acts of violence. The Beninese authorities, who rarely comment on attacks, also reported in April 2023 that there were about 20 cross-border incursions since 2021 in the West African country. And Benin has been trying to improve its security situation in recent years. In 2022, Benin deployed nearly 3,000 troops to secure its borders as a part of an operation called Mirador. Later on, the country's authorities also recruited nearly 5,000 additional personnel to reinforce security in the north. And the president of the country, Patrice Talon, late last year made it clear that there would be no more political compromises.
Benin, our country, has found its way, and this is irreversible. No more usurpation of political power by incompetent and ill-intentioned sellers of illusions. No political compromise detrimental to our development will be conceded to please anyone or satisfy any political consensus.
In addition to Benin's own efforts at fighting violent extremism, the United States sent $6.6 million worth of armored vehicles and defense equipment to Benin in November last year. Earlier, the European Union also announced 47 million euros, or nearly $49 million, to help fight terrorism and violent extremism. But with jihadist and terrorist attacks increasing in Benin, concerns remain on how well the Beninese forces can tackle the worsening security situation in its north. And staying on in West Africa, a controversy has erupted in Ghana. Now, during the inauguration ceremony of the West African country's new president, John Mahama, Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has sparked concerns when he met his Ghanaian counterpart with a holstered pistol at his waist. Traoré was one of the 17 heads of state who were invited to attend Mahama's inauguration ceremony that was held in the capital city of Accra earlier this week. Leaders from countries such as Nigeria, Kenya, the DRC, Rwanda, Gambia, Sierra Leone and Chad, among others, were also attending the inauguration that saw Mahama return for a second tenure in the cocoa-producing nation.
Today, we celebrate African democracy as Ghana and our beloved people mark the transition from one democratic government. It further demonstrates that in West Africa, we are capable of democratic and productive endeavors.
However, what drew everyone's attention was Burkina Faso's gun-wearing leader. Many described it as an unusual move for a head of state to carry a sidearm to an inauguration ceremony, as the security of the visiting leader is the responsibility of the host nation. While others saw it as a lack of trust in the ability of Ghanaian officials to protect the Burkinabe junta chief. Now, some even said that the military leader attending an investiture of a democracy with a gun was a bit awkward. Social media users were also quick to comment on the military leader carrying the gun. Many questioned that was it all right for the Burkina Faso leader to meet with his Ghanaian counterpart on stage with a gun. One user even noted that Traoré had not carried a gun with him while meeting Russian President Vladimir Putin, so it was astonishing why he carried it to Ghana. Now, Traoré has been the president of Burkina Faso since 2022. He came to power after a military coup in the West African country in the same year. Since he came to power, he has turned away from former colonial ruler France and pivoted toward Russia for security support. Moreover, Burkina Faso, along with two other military-led states, Mali and Niger, have also broken away from the regional bloc ECOWAS to form a new alliance. Now, these West African countries have accused ECOWAS of trying to destabilize their countries. Traoré has also defeated an attempt in September last year to overthrow him in a coup, and now ensures that he keeps tight security detail against him. So in such a scenario, there might have been a possibility that Traoré had this thought at the back of his mind that led him to attend the inauguration ceremony in Ghana with a sidearm. Yet Traoré's attendance at the inauguration was seen as a significant diplomatic gesture aimed at normalizing relations between the two West African countries. Ghana and Burkina Faso have had strained relations in recent years, particularly after the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, had accused Traoré of harboring Russian mercenaries. So, with the two countries moving past their tumultuous past, all eyes are now on how Ghana would support Burkina Faso's efforts to address the jihadist insurgency in the region, which has posed a threat to coastal West African states. And for our last story, we take you to Morocco, a country known for its rich cultural heritage, scenic beauty, and culinary masterpieces. The North African nation has broken its tourism record as it welcomed over 17 million visitors in the past year. And that's a target it had aimed to achieve by the year 2026. But as the country invests to make itself a tourism hub, more and more people are choosing it as their next vacation spot. Our next report gets you all the details on Morocco's tourism success.
Morocco is climbing up the list of the world's top favorite tourist destinations. The country has broken its own tourism record. It welcomed around 17.4 million tourists last year, the most it has seen by the end of any year. This marks a 20% increase from the previous year. This tourist influx is driven by foreigners and also Moroccans living abroad, who share the proportion equally. This boost puts the North African nation ahead of its strategic tourism roadmap. Morocco had set a goal to receive over 17 million tourists by 2026. But the target has already been hit 2 years ahead of schedule thanks to its vibrant, breathtaking tourist hotspots that have attracted visitors from around the world. Often called the gateway to Africa, Morocco is considered an all-in-one destination. No matter what kind of traveller you are, Morocco has something for you. From colourful markets, palaces, heritage sites and wondrous medinas, it is a cultural powerhouse. Its natural beauty cannot be overlooked. From capped mountains, captivating landscapes of the Sahara Desert and breathtaking beaches, Morocco is a paradise for nature lovers. And how can one forget the food? From tagine to the famous couscous, Moroccan food is a culinary masterpiece with a blend of spices and herbs. One of the most popular destinations within Morocco remains Marrakech. Known as the Red City, it is famous for palaces, gardens and rich culinary heritage. It's also known as the City of Luxury. And who can forget Casablanca? Known as Morocco's film city, Casablanca has a rich culture of music, movies, culture and cuisine. Blessed with scenic beauty and culture, tourism has become a lifeline for Morocco. As of 2023, it contributed about 7% of the country's GDP. It accounted for around 2 million jobs. By the end of 2024, Morocco's tourism revenues stood at more than $10 billion. With the record number of tourist arrivals, Morocco has also become Africa's most visited destination in 2024, surpassing Egypt. This comes as the North African kingdom in recent years has made significant efforts to make itself a tourism hotspot. It has invested heavily in modernizing its airports, public transportation and hospitality. The country is also set to host football's African Cup of Nations later this year and the FIFA World Cup in 2030. The excitement is already palpable among Moroccans.
With the African Cup of Nations and then the World Cup 2030 in Morocco, the country will prosper and more tourists and national teams from different countries will meet in Morocco. Hotels are prospering together with cities. We have hospitality. Frankly, I was very happy when I heard Morocco, Spain, Portugal will organize 2030 World Cup. Honestly, this is a big honor, especially after the Atlas Lions made us proud in Qatar 2022. This is a big honor to organize 2030, as it will also help develop infrastructure and tourism.
With the efforts by the authorities and happening events lined up, Morocco is expected to see a surge in already increasing tourist numbers. If not already, it is better to add it to your list of next wanderlust destinations as Morocco becomes the next vacation hotspot of Africa.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again at the same time on Monday. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend and goodbye.